Go for it. Good morning, Hickory Sunrise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, would you mind indicating the
Yes. Let's bow. Lord God, thank you for this day. Thank you for our lying down last night and you allowing us to rise this morning with a reasonable amount of health and strength. Lord, we thank you for this club. We thank you for the hearts around this table. And Lord, we ask you just to bless us as we continue to carry out the Rotary motto, service above self. Bless our speaker today, Lord. Give her the words that you'd have her to say. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to move this closer.
Morning, Rotary. Morning. All right.
This morning, just because you didn't eat, why you don't bless the food? Richard. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Put your money on the table if you keep talking.
Not yet,
All right.
not yet.
Now, this morning, couple of announcements. No fines this morning. I know you're upset about that.
That's fine.
I'm giving up a little bit of time because really we have two parts of the program. We have Austin, we'll be talking about the soup kitchen. And we'd like to hear it from Austin. And then our guest will be presented in a few minutes. We'll have the second part of the program. And also, we have Richard has an announcement this morning. So Richard, if you would.
Oh, I do, my time?
Well,
I just want to thank all of you for last Saturday that we did the Winter Warmth and Feed the Needy. That was a great thing that we did as a club. The soup was all good, and all those guys that brought the soup and the food that we gave away and the bread and all those kind of things that we give to the community. And so, it's, as Steve said in our prayer, it is service above self, and we certainly serve those that needed that. So, again, this is what your dollars are for. Every time that you give that for is to help with that. So thank all of those that helped and early on, and thank all of you guys that helped and stayed late and helped us set up. And it was a great thing, and a great thing for our club to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it a hand.
Jenny?
And the girl.
Jenny?
And the girl. Thank you.
And the girl.
Also,
You're just
one of the girls.
Jim Stark, we're glad to have you back.
Oh, yes, I'm going to introduce myself to that young man over there.
Austin is on the program this morning, so...
Well, I don't have a program. I just wanted to mention the room you're sitting in finally got finished, and if you could have been here at 6:15 this morning to see the four gentlemen going out to work for their second week in a row, pretty phenomenal. We've got two different companies that they're going to, and we're adding, Manpower's adding new ones every day. They've placed over 24 people now, because some of the folks have transportation, 4 of which are using our transportation. But anyway.
Does everybody know about Manpower being here?
Well, okay, so this is called the Hope Project that we're doing here. It's a pilot program. We partnered with Amy Powell, she's on my committee, Mark Sinclair, Jeff Newell from CBC Small Business Center. One of the things that we found out when Alan Jackson came up here and did his series of surveys was that we have a bunch of people who think that if you gave them a job today, they would work. And when I say a bunch, I mean like 70% of those who are living in April. Now that's high, and we realized that was high. We would have continued if it would have been 20%, frankly. I would have been thrilled with 20. So when it was 70, we decided we needed to do something. We purchased a van. I have volunteers who have agreed, and they're in the process now of doing it, coming and taking them to work and picking them up. This is, again, a pilot program. We're going to run it 6 months. If we find any sort of success, I got to be honest with you, we're going to try and expand it and include not only Manpower, but NC Works, Goodwill's Career Center. Some of these jobs, too, are a little more skilled and take a little more mentorship. So Catawba Leadership has provided 8 of their graduates to help as well. And when I say mentor, I don't really mean mentor in the mentoring sense. These are just relationships. These aren't teaching you how to spend money, or this is just somebody, a good influence in your life, basically. So anyway, all that's happening out of this room. There'll be more to come. Trust me. If it works, y'all will hear about it. I'm just kind of waiting. I got to prove that folks will go. But once they go and we have the data, you might see more of it. So anyway, glad y'all could be here.
So when did you have surgery?
The 10th.
Surgery scheduled?
Yeah. So tomorrow is the point towards wellness, which involves public health, Catawba behavioral health. They're going to be doing, and plus we do the point in time count where we count all the homeless. So tomorrow they'll be doing flu shots, Hep B and A vaccinations. They'll be doing HIV testing. They'll be doing all kinds of things. And so it's a flow. So you're in the middle of, actually all the crap that was in here is underneath those right now. We moved them. But the building itself is paid for. You know, we ran a very successful capital campaign, so we don't have a mortgage. So the way we figure we need to squeeze as much good out of it as we can. So utilizing the building for things like that, collaborative groups, we want it used every day, frankly. And at this point, if you didn't know, so the Vietnam veterans are meeting here third Monday of every month. The Veterans Helping Veterans meets here every Friday. Kids at Work program, which is they take at-risk youth from Ford, Hickory High, and St. Stephen's. Every Wednesday, they teach them how to cook, 4 hours. Elks Love and Care Social for special needs folks, and the list goes on of folks using the building. So if you're doing any good and you need the building, let me know. It's free. We don't charge to use the building. I just have to have some staff here, which we don't require you to pay for. Again, that's our contribution back to the community for letting us have the building. So that's it.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think the next person we need to look at is Brother Dennis Bennett. Is that right?
Yes.
Dennis, are you on?
He just called you. I'm sorry.
Dennis?
Yes.
I think the next fellow we need to look at is Dennis Bennett, because I think he's about to introduce somebody. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, stand and deliver, please.
It's probably been 6 months ago since we first met, where she came to one of our veterans groups and talked about a way to help people who struggle with life after they've been in a war theater to get back to being civil. And she has a very unique program that involves her horse farm, her care, a therapist. And at first, when I have to tell you, I scoffed at the idea when I first heard it. But she can explain it very well how a horse, a person, equine therapist as herself, and then a therapist, that triangular relationship can effect better health for a person who struggles. Jennifer Bandy.
All right.
I'm going to stand because I feel a little more comfortable. So, I'm not a public speaker, but I love what I do, so I love to share it with people. And I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come and speak with you today. Walk With Me is a nonprofit, and what we do is equine facilitated psychotherapy. My role back 10, 15 years ago, I have a passion for horses, and I used to teach lessons, trail riding, birthday parties, what you would think typical horsemanship would be about. I received lots of letters from moms and families. Thank you for changing my child. Thank you for changing my family. And I'm like, I don't know, it's not me, it's the horse. And so what I did was I started doing more research. How can I do this with more purpose? And so I found out that equine facilitated psychotherapy is a real thing. And so I started taking my certification, and I am now certified with PATH International as an equine specialist. I'm working toward my certification with natural life-manship, which is trauma-focused care. And so through my journey, what I want to do is, one of my passions is at-risk youth and veterans. And so I know what I do, and I know that it works, and so I want to share it with you guys, okay?
Okay, it's going to get a little dark. Steve's eyes are really good, he doesn't need light.
All right. Want to read that?
All right, what is equine facilitated psychotherapy? That's a lot of words and they're big words. What we do is we use horses in a therapy session. It consists of 4 individuals: the client, the therapist, the equine specialist, and the horse. The primary reason why we use horses is because the horses will react to what's happening inside of the person. And so they're a prey animal, and so they're what we would call hypervigilant. They're constantly scanning the surroundings for anything that's going to eat them. So it makes them more sensitive to subtle body changes or changes within our facial expressions. The other reason why we use the horse is because the horse responds to the present. It doesn't respond to what you did yesterday, and it doesn't respond to what you're going to do tomorrow. It responds to what you're doing today or how you're feeling today. Trauma, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. A death of a family member, divorce, war, parents who are addicted to drugs or alcohol. I'm sure you can think of lots of other traumas that have happened in your life or to people that you love. And the thing about trauma is what's traumatic for me may not be traumatic for you. So it's all individually based. Trauma leads to physiological adaptations in the way the brain functions. So situations where survival is the overriding concern. To ensure survival, the brain goes to the lower regions of the brain, the fight, flight, or freeze response, and it becomes stronger. And so the more you live in trauma, so our youth that live in unpredictable home lives live in a traumatic state more often than not. So their lower parts of the brain become what we call muscled up. And it inhibits the survival, or the instinct overrides the thinking part, or the impulse control, becomes weaker and disorganized. So that's the neocortex, okay? So they live in a state of fear more often than not. Pathways. The best example I can give, pathways in the brain, are cow paths. We've all seen them in the fields. It's a beaten path that cows follow every single day to the watering hole. And so what happens if a farmer comes along and puts a fence up across that pathway? The cows will stand there and thirst to death. And so that's how trauma happens. You have the pathway into the brain, out to the neocortex. Now we put a fence up. So we have to show the cows where the new watering hole is, or we have to show them around the fence. Same thing within the brain. So the trauma happens, the fence goes up. Now we've got to make a new pathway to the neocortex. When people live in a state of fear or uncertainty, they become naturally hypervigilant. It is known that the traumatic stress, such as experienced by soldiers living in the combat zone, often leaves its mark on an otherwise healthy adult in what we commonly call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Living in a state of constant hypervigilance is associated with physiological changes that interfere with living and lead to all sorts of undesirable behaviors. Anxiety, depression, just to list a few. So we kind of understand what happens in the brain when trauma happens, and the big part is how do we fix it, or how do we help you to live a more comfortable life. So predictable pattern rhythm. So what you can think of is when a mama rocks her baby. Baby's crying, mommy picks the baby up, starts rocking the baby, or finds out, are you hungry, are you dirty, those kind of things. The rocking starts soothing the baby starts self-regulating, and the crying stops. Okay? So, what I want you guys to do is I want you to just start clapping with me. Okay, so take a note. How do you feel inside? Are you comfortable, not too hard, all that good stuff, okay? Now I want you to clap with me again. Right? How are you feeling inside right now? It changes, right? You become hypervigilant. You're watching me, okay, I can get this. Or you sit back and you say, you know what? That lady's got no rhythm and I'm going to quit because I can't keep up. So that's kind of what happens when trauma happens, an unpredictable, a rhythm within your life, okay?
You just tell me when you want the next slide.
All right. You can,
No?
yeah, I think it's this one.
Good thing you did it.
So last year I did a group of contained kids from Newton Conover Elementary School. And we had 6 individuals that came out and we did 2 6-week sessions with these children. The main reason they were brought to me were for 2 individuals. One, a young man was already in the juvenile court system, and the other one was said to be without emotion. And so these kids came out and they were scared to death. They didn't want to touch the horse, they didn't want to be near the horse. I mean, it was just gobs of hurdles we had to get over. This is a letter from one of the individual boys that wanted to write a letter to his horse at the end of the session. And not only was it the funniest thing ever, but learning new skills and how to apply them while in the class in other areas of his life. The 2 words that I really take note of that he used here are scared and trust. He learned how to step over that fear of the horse, building that relationship with the horse, and eventually trusted that horse enough that we did some mounted work with him. And it was phenomenal. The other young man, at the end of the session, you get time to say goodbye to your horse. And he walked up to his horse, hugged him, and started crying and said, "I will miss you." And so those 2 examples right there just kind of show you the power of equine facilitated psychotherapy. All right, in a session, we teach principles allowing you to respond to changing behaviors in the way that benefit and build relationships. So what happens, we become patterned. So we do things in a pattern, and sometimes we don't realize what we're doing. Perfect example of this is women. We like to be nurturing. And so we like to go up and we like to nurture the horse to build our relationship. Some women like to go up and bribe the horse. And so they like to offer hay, they like to offer grain, they like to talk sweetly to the horse, "Come with me." Well, what happens when the grain and the hay is gone? The horse leaves you, right? He's off finding somewhere else because that relationship wasn't built on a good foundation. So that gives us opportunity to have discussion and then try new behaviors. So that's how it differs from talk therapy, where you sit in the room and you talk through things. This is hands-on experience. Okay. Trust is really big. In trauma, most of the time, trauma happens in relationships, and trust is destroyed. And so, building trust with a horse, and the trust goes the other way also. The horse has to trust the person. So picking his back hooves is a very scary thing for a person for the first time. Am I going to get kicked? Am I going to get hurt? For the horse, it's scary because he never likes to be on 3 legs because he can't flee fast enough from danger. So you work on trust. Communication. How do you communicate with your horse? And so you get to practice communication. Is it okay for me to physically go up and touch the horse and try to move the horse out of the way? No. So what does that look like when you bring all these facets into your relationships with people? And so that's the key once you start your therapy with your horse, moving into how does this affect your everyday life? That's it. All right, does anybody have any questions?
Where does all this horsing around take place?
I own Stillwater's Farm, which is over behind Sipes Orchard Home off County
Home Road.
Sipes Orchard Home off County Home Road. That was a mouthful. And so we just moved there. I had a barn over off Probst Crossroads. And then I moved to Conover about 2013. And that's when I started the change from horsemanship to lifemanship.
How do you refer or something?
There you go, that's my, because I'm an elementary administrator, and I'm listing in my head all the kids that need this.
Yes.
So how do you do that? What's the cost to do that, et cetera?
That can all be worked out because the school that I worked with applied for a grant.
Okay.
And they gave me the lump sum.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have a huge overhead because feeding these critters is kind of costly.
Right.
So that's why I started the nonprofit, was so that I could start offering services to people who couldn't afford it. Like I don't want to charge our veterans. I want them to come. Our kids, if we can get money, we do fundraisers. We try to do all kinds of things. The cost for a session is $100. And I split with the therapist. I have to pay the therapist, and then some goes to the barn, and then some pays me.
Sessions a day or an hour or what?
A session is for 1 hour. If we do group work, it's about $30 per participant per session, and it usually runs about 1.5 hours to 2 hours.
The other thing to add to what you said about how the childhood trauma affects, and I'm more about the childhood part, that's more of what I know. Not only does it affect their brain, but it affects all their body systems. And actually kids that have childhood trauma that don't get treated, their life expectancy can be reduced up to 20 years. Because it does so much damage to their heart, to the physical muscle of their heart, and to just their entire body system. So, and it's, we don't have resources. That's the thing that public ed doesn't have. We don't have enough mental health resources. So you're kind of like Manna.
Yes, and I am with you. There is such a tremendous need in our community for this. One thing that I've really noticed in the last 3 years with doing this is we shut down our senses. When trauma happens, we don't want to feel anymore, right? And so we shut down our senses. So part of the process when we start with our youth and with our veterans is we get out in the sunshine. Everything I try to do is outside. And we groom in the arena. And the horse is not on a lead rope. So you have to build your relationship with your horse. So your horse is going to stand with you while you groom your horse. Now sometimes we will use a halter and a lead rope. It just depends on what our goal is, what the therapy goal is for the day. But you groom your horse. And so now I'm asking you, what do you see? We're creating a rhythm with the brushing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. What do you see? So we're waking your eyes up. What do you hear? We're waking your ears up. You wouldn't believe a lot of people. I mean, birds could be singing the top of their lungs and people will not hear it. What do you feel? A lot of people shut their feeling down. They don't even feel the breeze blowing on their face. And so we start waking all that up. A really great example is I had a veteran group come out and we were doing this exercise. And the horse started getting very antsy, moving around, pawing, not wanting to stand still. And he said to me, well, the horse doesn't like me, I want a new horse. Well, that's part of the process, is you pick your relationship horse so that you can't come back to me and say, you picked that horse for me and you set me up in this. Well, that's not true. So I said to the gentleman, I said, well, let's go pick another horse. Because I knew exactly what was going on. He was waking up inside and he didn't want to feel it. And so a lot of chaos was happening, and that horse was like, are you going to eat me? Because I need to get out of Dodge if you are. Because you hit the horses like congruency. And so he looked calm on the outside, but the inside didn't match what his outside was showing.
When you mention what happens to the brain, that you're talking physical there, that's not some kind of a way to describe it. It's actual, they could do brain scans or whatever, and you could see the effect of trauma in the brain.
And cross-brain connections.
Yeah.
They're huge. So a big part of my work, it does not have to be mounted, but I would highly suggest mounted work after you build your relationship with your horse. Because the horse creates the rhythm with his feet. Okay, so now you got a rhythm. Now your whole body is moving with the horse because you can't help not to. Mm-hmm. And so now we take the right hand and we cross the brain to the left side, and then we do it this way. And I had a severely brain damaged young man that came and couldn't speak. And now he kind of talks. He can kind of understand things. And I believe that a lot of it is through that patterned riding and that cross-brain connection. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen the next 6 weeks with him. So,
How many horses do you have?
I personally own 8, but I board. Well, and the reason why is because when you do sessions, it not only affects us, but it affects the horse. So I won't use a horse more than 2 or 3 sessions a day, and they have to have their time. So what does that look? That's my job, right? So does my horse like to go out to relax, or does he want to be in a stall by himself where he doesn't have to fight anybody for anything? So my job is to care for those horses, and also to understand their behaviors. Every horse has a different personality. So is it the client that's bringing that behavior, or is it the horse? Or both. Absolutely, yeah.
Are any of the horses rescue horses?
Yes. That was part of what I did before, was I would take unwanted horses and I would retrain them into horses that people, what I like to call valuable citizens. So we would work them, whatever their problems were, and then we would find them new homes with primarily young ladies. That was the market back then, was young ladies. But I do currently have 4 horses that came from the feedlot. And the feedlot is the last step before slaughter. And so you just gamble. I just bought them because you got to buy them sight unseen. So I bought them. The big black and white paint that you connected with, when he came to me, you couldn't even touch his head. Somebody had probably beat him so badly. But through building relationships and trust, I use him now with the EC kids. And he is phenomenal.
How many breeds do you have? Are they mostly quarter horses, or?
I am a quarter horse lady. It's hard for me to get out of that box. Yeah. Walkers, I have one walker that boards with me, but I use him in therapy. And he is so...
Tennessee Walker?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. He's faster paced, he's antsier. Quarter horses are more of a
Workhorse, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true style, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Austin's got the rhythm.
He really does. He does.
Yeah.
That's a rough rider, horses.
The larger context of what you do is called mental health and dealing with it. And it's a taboo subject. In many churches it is. And one of the first budget cuts that's usually made on a legislative level or wherever is usually in mental health, because there's no tangible outcomes, you know, you can put dollars and cents on.
Yeah.
How would you speak to that?
I would speak when you can see changes within the individuals themselves. And it may be little steps. I had an autistic 26-year-old lady come to me for a whole year. And she thought that her dance teacher had brushed her breast. And so she was having trouble in that area. And so at the very last session that she was having with us, she broke down and cried. Now the horse went to the whole other end of the barn and he wouldn't even come back up. But through that process, she came to the conclusion that she was afraid she was going to be an old maid. And she was never going to marry or never have a love. And so through that realization and coming to that, she then was able to have confidence to go out and meet people and say, yeah, I am worth it. And so now she has, I think it's been 1.5 years, and she has a boyfriend. So we're excited for her. But
Now that year, would that be a session a week or more?
it depends on what your goals are. And so what we do is we do an intake and we set up a 6-week session. Most typical is 6 weeks. We've done 4. And then whatever the therapist and the client, what their goals are. If we can achieve it in 6 weeks, we're done.
But at the rate of a session a week or 2
Yes.
sessions a week, or?
Well, it really depends on what you need. Typically, it's been a session a week or every other week.
Okay.
Can you come out and just learn to ride?
Yeah, I still do horsemanship. Yep. But how I've changed is we don't just get on the horse and ride anymore. So now you've got to learn natural horsemanship. So how do you start building your relationship before you ride? And so we do round penning work and connection and all that stuff.
How about like a summer program for children?
Yes.
You do that
Yes.
as well?
Yes. This year I do what I would call a riding camp, where I teach safety and all that good stuff. And then I'm going to add a camp this year for specific at-risk youth learning. So I will have 2 separate camps this
What
year.
ages will those be? Just a general day camp?
It's 6 and up.
6 and up,
Mhm.
okay.
Jennifer, I have a question, talking about cost. What would it cost if we sent 1 or 2 of our Rotarians through this program?
Yes, that's what I was.
Yes,
We can't pay that.
It's like,
Do you need a schedule for it?
Look, y'all
like-
are really up early, but when it gets warmer weather, I would love for you guys to come out, all of you, experience it, you know, because I can stand here and I can tell you all this stuff, but until you experience it, you don't really truly understand.
When are your gates open? When are you open?
I'm pretty flexible. Right now is my slow season because nobody likes to be out in the cold. And really, if it drops below 36, we cancel everything because it's not good for the kids.
If we come out, I'll pay for Steve to have a session.
I've got Gavin already lined up.
Do you mean as a horse?
You're the horse.
Brothers don't do horses.
Yeah, so let's discuss that.
There we go.
that sounds like a candidate. That sounds like a candidate.
Well, I have to take exception to that statement, Steve. If you want to look up Buffalo Horseman,
No, I'm kidding, I know.
I know you are.
I got a bit of a cold, and when I woke up this morning, I was a little horse.
Oh.
Don't quit your day job.
You are good.
Amen.
Great job.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hey, Jennifer, we want to give you a plaque.
Thank
Say
you.
thank you.
Oh.
It's, all right, camera. We'll do without a camera, you and I. But
Okay.
I really appreciated that. You know, I've been with the club for about a half a year. and up to now, I can see there's some hope. We need about $30,000, but at least half of us need a horse.
Horse, right? A horse.
And we just want to present you with our little coaster made by our very own Wayne. That's some real wood.
All right.
And we say,
Thank you.
Face the camera.
Face the camera. Come on.
Real
Hey,
wood.
Hold on.
there you go.
One more just.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen and lady.
The lady left. Other
I
lady.
know, but we don't want to exclude her. Is there some information that we want to share with our brothers?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
We're about 30 days out on the dance market,
Okay.
and things are rolling together very well. We've got a 6-piece band that's going to play a variety of music, mostly some Mardi Gras style music, and then we've got, of course, everybody knows Ulysses. He's going to play and sing for us for about an hour on the piano. With that being said, Richard Tucker and I have already raised $1,500 for the dance from local communities. So I ask everybody else to chip in what they can, and let's get them on board as a sponsor. And we do have a little bit of expense involved with this. We're paying for some of the music. But other than that, the rest of it should be profit. So tickets will be ready in the next day or two. And Alan Finley, as of this morning, has already sent it out to 40 publications. So as far away as Statesville, we'll see what happens. So
Can
that's
somebody
it.
send you the information to put on the Facebook?
Yes, he asked to make sure it went up on the website, so I will send that to you today. In fact, Mike can do it right now.
Okay,
Can I ask a quick question?
go ahead.
Gavin, do you still have control of the Hickory Sunrise webpage?
Yes.
You need to give it to me. It says we're in 2014 and Mark Pittman's secretary, and I really resent that. He is not secretary.
I have been neglecting that because almost nobody was going to it. Everybody goes to the Facebook page, so I was just doing that. But I should update it though, just for the.
Yeah.
And who updates the club roster?
On the back of the bulletin?
Yeah.
I sent it into Ron. Ron lost it the last time, and I didn't bring that up when Wayne fined me. Then I sent it out in text to Barbara and Kenny, and we also dropped Ken Luderbach in those 3 moves. And I have this document you've got was published before those changes went in.
Okay, so,
So I don't know.
okay.
If it's been changed, it's changed. If it's not, I'll find out when Wayne gets another book.
I'm looking to see that it's not changed correctly. Okay. That's what I want to know.
Because the first time we changed it, Wayne, was when we marked up the back of one of the bulletins and let Ron take it away from that meeting. And I thought Kenny got it. Kenny didn't got it. So it's my fault.
Does Kenny do the, I know he does the printing, but does he do the actual input?
Barbara does.
Okay.
His Barbara.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks.
But on advice from the club, usually from Ron.
Okay. All right.
I've got a few things, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right, I gave each of you, or I passed out some pictures that I got from a meeting with the city folks, city manager Warren Wood and a few others. Very quickly, there are 2 polio things going on. And Phil and I are on the committee. And the 2 things are a mural downtown, and the second is a marker of some sort on the site of the Miracle of Hickory Hospital. And that was our idea. And in meetings that I've been in, folks, Cliff Moon, I think, is sort of chairing a lot of this. He makes sure everybody knows the Hickory Sunrise Rotary came up with the idea of something on the site. So the lower left corner of what you have here is the mural that has been proposed. That'll go on the side of the wall where the wine shop is, across from the other mural on Union Square that already exists. And it shows basically the miracle of Hickory. And we had a program from Richard Eller, and we've seen the video, and some of you have, I have the book that talks about the Sister Kenny method that was used here that had a 97% success rate when that method wasn't being accepted by doctors all around the world. You know, her method was working, and it worked here at Hickory. That's why it's called the Miracle of Hickory. And so that's the mural that is proposed to go up. Now, in the lower right is the obelisk that is currently on Union Square. The Polio Committee, in talking about having something on the site of the hospital, had talked about having a sculptor come in and make proposition proposals and so on and so forth. The least expensive one was $100,000. And so they're scratching their heads, and we got talk with Warren Wood at the city, and because the city walk is going pretty much right through Union Square, the obelisk is in the way. They want to do the obelisk. And the obelisk is a monument
to the miracle.
To the miracle of Hickory. And so we, our club, is partnering with the city of Hickory to move it at no cost to us. They're moving it themselves. We're just going to make sure there's some signage for our club since it's our idea. The upper left is a site on, this is on where the Miracle of Hickory was. There's a parking area. And see that little circle that goes like a roundabout? That's the perfect spot for the obelisk to go.
Yeah.
And so Warren and I have been talking that could be where it goes. Very little effort on anybody's part. And I told him our club would be glad to maintain it and stuff like that, and just whatever.
So the city's obligated to pick it up for the city walk, and we get to pick where they put it down.
Exactly. And when we saw this slide, that's perfect for it. Right? And the upper right corner, this is for our veterans group, because the second proposal we gave to the city was having sometimes a veterans monument in Hickory, because every other community in Catawba County has a veterans memorial or monument, something Hickory does not. The only thing it has is the cannon.
Yeah, wasn't moving the cannon part of what we got Kabbalixed on when we wanted to suggest that?
Where that cannon is going to go, nobody knows yet, if it even moves at all. But you can see the artist's rendering of having it lifted up and tiered. That's probably what they're going to do.
Great.
And other things, I just wanted to update you on where we are with the polio thing and the veterans thing as well.
So the Veterans Monument is not dead yet?
It is not dead,
okay.
No. It almost was, but because I'm on a committee, we're able to keep that dialogue
rolling.
The bus shelter, I talked to Greenway Transportation. We need to keep discussing this if we want a shelter. About $6,000 to do one. They have them. We just pay for it, basically. Roger.
I noticed just driving around Hickory, I noticed two locations, just to put it out there. There's a bench that sits in front of the McDonald's on Highway 70. That's talking about Highway 70 a little bit further out that joins with 127.
Okay.
But there's a bus stop there, it looks like, and there's just a bench with the American flag that sits there. I don't think there's a base there, but that's a very
conspicuous
high traffic
area. There's another one on 127 north. I think it sits in front of a church, so not too far down the road here on the right.
Yeah.
But there's a bench that just sits out there.
I know which bench you're talking about.
No base there either.
And there has to be a concrete base for the shelter to be. And just to update you guys, some of our folks have said they've seen people standing out in the rain and the wind and stuff, and why couldn't we do a shelter to protect some of these people? Now, the shelter itself, she says, if the rain is coming in real hard, it's not going to protect anybody.
Sure.
But still, it's better than nothing. She also told us that the city of Hickory is thinking about a shelter in front of the hospital, Catawba. And she said, would you be interested in that? I said, we'd be interested in anything.
I can't believe there's not
Just,
one already.
yeah, and there isn't one.
There's one on the side street behind the hospital.
That dialogue will continue. But talk about on Fairgrove Church Road itself, Donald?
We had, is the idea kibosh or kibush or whatever, that we build one. We had the skills and we believe that we can build one for a lot less than $6,000.
Well, that idea has not been thrown out, no. But it's a matter of who can do the building, who has the time to do it. We have some folks who could. Is that the best use of their time and effort and stuff? I don't know.
If Greenway already has property they own, they're gonna stalemate us till they're out of their own units to get rid of.
And that's very possible. I couldn't speak to that necessarily, but that's definitely a possibility.
Well, I think it's, Rick, I think it's one of those things that we want to stay consistent with what they have across the city.
Exactly.
Or the county.
Yeah.
And if we build something, I think that would be somewhat challenging for us to do. They've already got it. $6,000 is not a whole lot of money.
And along that same vein, Steve, Glenn gives us the monthly financial reports, and we have our yearly budget. Don't forget there's $25,000 out there that's not even in the budget. All right, that's our reserve, so to speak. And theoretically, in discussions, we could say, let's take it from that, if we decide we want to do it. I mean, it's out there, okay? So we'll keep the dialogue going. We don't have to have a decision made, very soon. But Greenway is real pleased that we're interested and they're willing to work with us.
Are we allowed to put our logo on it then? If
we're going to put, yeah, we'll definitely have something. That's the whole point. And I told her that. She said that's not an issue.
Rick, are there some bus stops that are used more than others, obviously? And if so, can we put a glass enclosure around it like they do in big cities where you have your walkway into your bus stop and then you have the seat inside the bus stop, which keeps you out of the ice and the rain and the wind and the... So that would be probably a better use of dollars where some things are ready. We know it's being utilized.
Yeah, and that's what we told. We were interested in the high traffic areas that do not have one yet. That's what you're saying, right?
Or one that has one without an enclosure, that they're standing out in the rain because they have no other place. So that would be a better use of dollars.
Well, yeah,
I would think.
That's what we're talking about.
And we need to be careful that we don't create an environment that's conducive to things other than what we're trying to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, these are just glass enclosures.
Yeah,
that
I got
enclose
that,
what's already there.
But I've seen some around the city where folks just hang out in all day.
all you have to do is hang a newspaper over it so you can't see inside.
We will keep the dialogue going because it's just about time for us to leave. I have a few more that we'll talk about next week. We need to be thinking, since I'm taking over next year for our illustrious leader here, meetings, retreats, or something to talk. We need to be talking about getting our budget information after this upcoming event. We'll have some information for budget discussions for our next year and so on. And I'm going to pre-pest this out.
Remember, the impetus for this started with the notion that we wanted to see safety places for people that have only that transportation. I don't want to call them homeless, but they have only that transportation and they're in need of it, or where there are a lot of veterans using it. And that was where we had hoped to target our first effort.
Okay, hold on. One next to last thing, quickly.
If you can't, we don't really need any help for the evening of the dance. I need one or two other people at the most to be able to help me that evening. But what I would urge all of you to do is at least thinking about coming out and enjoying a meal at Duke's upstairs or the buffet line that's going to be phenomenal with seafood from one end to the other. So please think about that.
Okay, and the original meal was $30 a person.
It's $35. That includes a ticket to the
$35.
$35 including, okay.
Yes.
Okay. The last thing before we dismiss. I'm going to see our district governor, Jason Herman, today. If there's something you want me to share with him, please get it to me. You're coming also? Okay, thank you.
Assistant governor.
Of the things we
say or do is true. fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be
Beneficial to all concerned?
Gavin.
Is it
Will it be fun?